Hey, what's up, Pine Creek crew? My name is Clayton. I run the social media. I do a lot of the Instagram and YouTube posts, and I put all the videos together. And I thought it'd be a good idea to do a quick video on all of our bow setups. You'll find out that we are very big fans of the ranch fairy and all he does, and all his research on how to kill animals quickly and more humanely, and with a higher rate of recovery, because dead deer don't run. So you'll find out that we are a big fan of his. This video is kind of for if you are new to bow hunting and want to get a new setup, or even if you are an experienced bow hunter, kind of want to change something up, something's not working, you can see what we do, what works for us. And we really do have a pretty good variety of setups here, whether it's bow setups, arrow setups, all that. So I've just asked everybody to make a quick 2 to 3 minute video. Some people went a little bit longer, but that's okay, of their bow setups and kind of explaining everything. So yeah. Alright, so it looks like I'm going first here. We'll start with my arrows. I shoot a gold tip 300 grain spine arrow. I have a 100 grain insert in here, and then I shoot a muzzy 3-blade fixed blade broadhead. They're razor sharp. On the arrows I use, actually, my first two, they have the Luminoc lighted knock, so that I've found that very useful. I always use those as my first two. I've never used more than one arrow on a hunt, so I'm assuming two will always be enough, because the Luminocs are kind of expensive, but they're super nice. But my bow is a Diamond by Bowtech. I shoot a 32-inch draw length at 70 pounds draw weight, and then I have a truglo release. It's very, very hair trigger. You can see it just kind of, you just gotta just barely tap it, especially when it has all the pressure of the bow being pulled back. I love my sight. I've had it for so long. It's a truglo. It has more than 3 pins it comes with. I only use 3 because I have such that ranch fairy style heavy arrow that I really don't have much range. I'd never want to shoot anything out further than 30 or 35 yards. But when I do shoot them that close, it just punches right through them. I've never not had a pass through with this arrow setup. It's super nice. I love my wrist strap. I think it really keeps me used to getting the drop after my shot. I don't have to worry about dropping my bow out of the stand. It's super nice. I always run a whisker biscuit. I'd like to get a fall away rest at some point. I just don't really have the money for it right now, so it's kind of probably my next purchase there. I think it'll take me to the next level in my accuracy and consistency. Just removing that variable of the rest with constant contact with the arrow there. And then just pretty small stabilizer. I never really like the big ones, they kind of get in the way. But then usually I will have a GoPro on here with a GoPro mount. I actually really like it. I can put a link to it in the description. I bought it last year, and I've used the same mount for duck hunting, turkey hunting, and deer hunting, and had no problems with it. It stays super stable. And then it's mounted actually on the back of the GoPro, because a lot of times they're mounted on the bottom, and so when you shoot, if there's any sort of recoil, it'll kind of like rotate backwards, rotate forward, so you just don't get really a good shot. But with this one, it's mounted on the very back, so it really just keeps it nice and steady, which I really like. But yeah, here's my setup.
I am a little bit different probably than everybody else. I'm shooting an old bow, and there's how many deer I've killed with it. I'm kind of the adage, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. This is a Storm Elite. It's done me very well, and so I've just changed the string on it. I keep it waxed. I shoot a single pin, which I think is not a lot of people do that either. It's a Trophy Ridge. I don't know, I just kind of keep it simple. I do have some lighted knocks using the Rage 125 grain mechanical broadheads. Like I said, they just haven't failed me. I buy new O-rings periodically as those dry out, but it's cut through a lot of deer. So one thing I really like are these wraps. They put them on the outside, then you put them in hot water and they shrink. That way when you're redoing your fletchings, you don't have to scrape off of your arrow. I do my own fletchings. I kind of just enjoy it. But yeah, these things are sweet. I can get them on Cabela's or probably Bass Pro. And the reason I use the mechanical broadhead is they just haven't failed me, so I haven't seen a need to go to anything else. For me, it's just consistency. It feels natural when I get out and start shooting in the late summer. It just feels really good again. The one big thing is, finding that knock point, and when you change a string, you kind of have to redo that, but obviously you don't want the string to blow up on you. So I really like my bow. Love the whisker biscuit. I think it's the only thing for hunting. And yeah, Storm Elite does the job, gets her down. Thanks.
So I heard all you viewers want a bow setup video, so I'll give you mine. I have a PCC Evolve 31. I think I got it last summer, before I was shooting a mission. For my arrows, it's a 359 grain HD Hunter. So I really like these, pretty good. And then for my broadhead, I'm using the Magnus stingers. Didn't get to use it on any deer last year, but all my brother and dad did and dropped all the deer, so it's a quality broadhead. For my rest, I got a quad. It's an American flag style drop away rest. This thing is money. Used to have a whisker biscuit, and they last a little bit, but I like this one. Nice PSC 5-pin sight, if you can see. So we got 20, 30, and 40, and 50 and 60 if I ever shot that far. My stabilizer. Yeah, that's basically my setup. Not sure how much I'm going to get to use this year, but I'll try a few times, so that's all.
All right, hello everyone who watches this. Don't know who you are, but if you're watching this, it's pretty cool. I'll start with my bow and then go through my setup for the 2021 season. Let me get you turned around. Alrighty, so I have a Magnus, I think this is a 2010 Z7. It is set at 65 pounds. I have a longer draw. It's 31-inch draw. So yeah, I like 65 pounds. It just feels nice, easy to pull. I don't feel the need to pull any heavier. Single cam, like the Magnus are. I don't really have much on it. It's got a Trophy Ridge sight. Used to have a light on it, but fell off. Stabilizer's nothing fancy either. Just simple stabilizer. I do like this bow a lot. It's done me well over the past couple years. It needs a new string on it. Serving's starting to come loose, but it probably needs a good wax too. Peep is, I think it's a G5 peep, something like that, 1/4 inch, I think. Whisker biscuit. I've always shot a whisker biscuit. I don't like dropaways for whatever reason. I don't know. Just it's been a good bow to me. So yeah. Last summer, I drank the Ranch Fairy Kool-Aid and watched all of his videos and really tried to dial my bow in. I felt like before I'd notice it fishtail one direction. Just randomly. Some arrows would do it, some wouldn't. So I always felt like I never got that good spiral sight all the way to the target. So I decided to make the jump to a heavier arrow and see if that made a difference. First thing I did was I bare shafted an arrow. So the first thing I did is I bought an arrow that I thought I'd like. It
I've only ever shot gold tips for whatever reason. Maybe I'm partial to gold tip, but it was this Hunter. I don't think it's an XD or a Pro or anything. It was just whatever this Hunter 300 spine is, and I cut the fletching off and bare shafted it, and I really could tell a difference right away. My arrow was like sticking sideways out of the target, just out of the bow. So I made some adjustments on my whisker biscuit as far as left and right. It was pretty good up and down, so I didn't need to make a ton of adjustment there, but it had a lot of left and right travel. I forget which way it went, but the arrow was cocked. I think it was cocked left. So I changed the whisker biscuit and started shooting a bunch of bare shaft through it, and that really seemed to help. I messaged Troy on Instagram and asked him about his Ranch Fairy Special field tip test pack. He told me he thought my bow with my draw length and my weight would run pretty good, 225 to 250. So I got the 200 to 300 grain test pack. So 200s, 225, 250, 275, 300. And what I found is that the 225 ones flew really good. Now that was just with this bare shaft insert that I think they're like 17 grains or something like that, that come straight from the factory. That's what these are from my new arrows. So what I ended up doing is I bought 125 grain inserts to shoot a 100 grain broadhead out of the arrow. So I labeled 3 practice arrows and just use them for practice. These never have a broadhead unless I'm shooting a practice broadhead, but they're never meant to go into the field. I've actually blown through my target a couple times, so some of these are kind of getting rough already. So they have 125 grain insert. That's that gold insert. This is 100 grain broad or field tip, and you can see that mark right there, that Sharpie mark. I insert tuned them as well, and just kind of followed his process on YouTube. Look that up if you can find it. It's pretty easy to find. As far as my old arrows, I used to shoot these gold tip Hunter XTs, and I quick fletched them, Luminoc, just no insert up front, just a standard factory insert. And this is from a buck I shot in 2017 that I never found. Went about 1.5 miles. We tracked it before we lost blood. I shot it with a Rage 2-blade mechanical. What we think is one lung, liver hit. Never found it, so that was a disappointment. It was a pretty nice 8-point. So as far as what else, my release is nothing fancy. It's an old TrueFire that's Velcro even. I know that's a kind of a no-no for a lot of people because it makes noise, but it's the first release I ever bought, so it was just a cheap release, and it's worked pretty well so far. What else I have in here? I have I bought a sharpener, a Stay Sharp for broadhead sharpening. What broadheads I'm using is I'm going to switch here. Last year I used like a muzzy, just 100 grain, 3-blade, because I spent a bunch of money on my arrows and kind of used up all my hunting budget. And I didn't shoot a deer last year, so that kind of stunk. So I never really got a test because I sharpened those things. They might have lost some sharpness, but they were cutting paper really nice. So I'm going to get some type of cut on contact broadhead this year. I'm not sure what, if it's a Cutthroat or Masai or any of those other brands that Hunting Public talks about. I'd like to get something like that that's a single bevel or double bevel, something that I can kind of sharpen, good steel that can just kind of get used over and over again. But as far as my bow setup, an arrow setup, I really think that Ranch Fairy is onto something. I think if you're looking to try something new, if you feel like your bow isn't shooting as good as you thought it could, or don't be afraid to try it, because I really think the process works well, and I'm shooting my bow better than I ever have before, and my arrows fly really, really nice. So I'm really thankful to Troy and Hunting Public for kind of turning me on to that, because I feel like it's made me a better hunter, more ethical hunter. So I'm hoping to get out this fall and get a good buck down. So thanks. The one thing I will add, just as a last passing thought, is don't be intimidated by archery shop guys. The local archery shop, when I started asking about heavier arrows, the guy pretty much just kind of wrote me off and, you know, said something about speed and all that stuff. And it's kind of like, well, when I started bow hunting, I was shooting an aluminum arrow, and that was pretty heavy, and most people didn't even think twice about it. So the other thing too is, like Ranch Fairy talks about, when they cut your arrows, make sure you square the ends, because like I think 3 out of the 6 of the pack that I bought, the end was really jagged and not square, and it would not seat the insert just in there on its own. You could see like a 16-inch little difference on the end of the insert. So that'd be a last passing thought, would be don't be intimidated by the archery shop guys, and make sure you square the ends.
Okay, so this is my arrow setup. Last year I switched to a heavy arrow setup just because I wanted more pass-throughs, more penetration. I shoot gold tip, hunter, 300 spine arrows. They've worked great for me so far. I haven't had any problems. I have 300 or 100 grain inserts put in the front to add more weight. I put together my own arrows, so the guys at the pro shop thought I was stupid, so I do it all myself now. I shoot Magnus Stinger buzzcuts. I shot my buck with them this year, and it worked great. Pass through. I've always used Rage in the past, but I've never had a pass through with Rage, so these work great for me. And then I obviously have my wraps and cool fletchings, but I like the white because it'll be easier to see the blood if it's like light blood, dark blood, and it just looks really cool, so that's why I did that. My bow. I just bought a Mathews Halon 32 like a couple weeks ago. I've already got it sized in and tuned, but I like it so far. Shooting really well. I use I don't know if you can see it. Oh yeah, Trophy Ridge sight, Trophy Ridge Whisker Biscuit, and I have a fuse stabilizer, and then my quiver is also fused that I can put on and off. But I'm interested to see how it'll work this year. I hope I can get the job done. But yeah, that's my setup. I use True Fire Release. I don't know, nobody cares about that, but yeah.
This is take 2. Ethan's battery died in the first one midway through, so I'm gonna give it a second chance. Try not to stutter as much. So we got a couple months away from season here, and have been scouting out. We had a couple nice big bucks the other night, 4 of them in a bachelor group just down the road. We saw hop the fence line and in the evening, and so we were kind of spying on them for a little bit, and a couple nice shooters in that group, and so we're getting our blood going and getting ready for season. Like I said before, the upper echelon of the Pine Creek crew has requested some of the low lifes, the common folk of the Pine Creek crew, to put together a little video describing their bow setup for archery season. So I'm going to make this video for the elites. Hopefully the elites approve of my video and my TikToking, or whatever this is. I'm not sure if this is a TikTok or not. Again, my bow is a Mathews. It's a switchback. I've probably had it for about 10 years. I bought this off of Dr. Kuhlman
friend of mine, and I've been shooting it for, like I said, about 10 years. I like it. It's shoot as far as a rest goes. I just have a simple whisker biscuit rest. It's worked for me, and I haven't really seen a need to change to like a more expensive drop away. So that's what I shoot, and it's I haven't had any problems with it. It's been consistent. As far as my string setup, I've got standard D loop here, and then up to my sight, I've got the old rubber band kind. The only drawback on the rubber band style is you just got to change that out, you know, once a year, just because it kind of gets brittle, or it can get brittle. And the last thing you want on a big shot, you know, you get a big buck at full draw, is to have that thing snap on you and break. But I've used the round sight in the past that doesn't have the rubber band, and it felt inconsistent for me. It just felt like it wasn't always rotating open consistently, and I was having some issues there. So I just went back to this, and it's been good. I just got to change this out. I probably need to change it out here this year, just to make sure it doesn't have any cracks in there. So as far as sight goes, nothing fancy, just a cheap truglo sight, 4-pin. But the main thing on a sight that I really care about is, the first thing is probably the pin size. I think these are 019 pins, but they're, back in the day, the fiber optics used to be a lot bigger, and once they went to these really small fiber optics, it just makes a big difference in the really being able to pinpoint that on your target and not have a big blob covering up your target. So small fiber optics, and then, you know, just rigidity of, you know, you just want something that's not going to be get bumped around, moved around. But it's not a fancy sight. It's nothing. I think it's just plastic all the way around, so it's not super fancy, but it seems to work for me. One thing, this is kind of unique. This is I don't know what it's called, but it's kind of like a ball and socket mount. I have it mounted into my stabilizer attachment, and I've got a clip that mounts to my belt. And basically, I can just, you know, drop my bow right there, and it just hangs. So when I'm walking out to the field, or I'm talking, I'm in the stand, I can hang that thing right there if I need to, and it just pops right out. So I like that. I bought that actually when I went up to Canada for the moose hunt, and we did a lot of walking, you know, in the backcountry, just so I wasn't always on my arm and wearing my arm shoulder down. So that's maybe a little unique. I think I have this maxed out. It's a 70-pound bow. I've got it maxed out, but I doubt it's pulling 70 anymore. It'll probably get a little bit worn. It's probably pulling 65, somewhere in there. As far as arrow setup, for years, this is going to be a mixed bag here. Well, I started out, it's funny, I've got this, I didn't even plan this, but I've got it kind of in order of progression. So years ago, I ran the monotechs, and you know, I like the fixed blade, but I just felt like they got dull easy. Like, I mean, I just don't feel like they're sharp, and so I felt like, you know, when you'd hit deer, it just wasn't cutting vitals very easily. So I moved away from those, probably a good 7, 8, 10 years ago. I don't know how long ago it's been. I've gone and I went to the Rages, and obviously started out with the 3-blade Rages, and then kind of went to these 2 blades, and had a lot of luck with the Rages. And so I used those for years. But the one thing I just kind of felt like the last couple years, I felt like when I was hitting deer, you know, the deer would, you know, a lot of times I'd harvest the deer, but I felt like a lot of times I was just tracking a long way, or the deer were moving a long way. And great entry wounds, and I felt like I struggled getting exit wounds sometimes with those. They didn't always do pass-throughs. And so sometimes it was just, you know, a little bit more tracking of the deer. And sometimes, you know, the entry wound, just wasn't dropping blood, spraying blood out, because a lot of times it's high anyway, and so the track was a little bit trickier. So last year, on the advice of some of my favorite hunters, my sons, they tried the Magnus buzzcuts, and so I said, let me give a shot for one of those things, and so I hooked up with a Magnus buzzcut, and I really like that. And the other thing I noticed with the Rage is I used to, with fixed blades, I used to get a lot of clean pass-throughs where the deer, a lot of times the deer would, like, they'd feel that, they'd flinch, maybe jump, 10, 20 feet, and then, hey, I'm gonna take my time with this.
Pushing
Don't
seven minutes right now.
Don't give me eyeballs. So, but a lot of times, in the past, you'd shoot them and they wouldn't, you'd see them fall over. They wouldn't even really realize they were hit. And so I never got that with a Rage, never. And I think it's just so much impact, so much energy being expelled on them that they're, that gets their adrenaline going, so they go running. So getting back to the fixed blade, these buzz cuts, we use these this year, and had a lot of success with these where deer would, we'd take these deer and clean pass-throughs, not a lot of trauma, as much trauma to the deer where, they're not even hardly realizing that they're hit and they're not running as far. So it really made the tracking a lot easier, and so we had a lot of success. I think we all had relatively easy tracks for the deer we took. The buck I shot back in the woods, literally ran 20 yards and then boom, was done. So I think that's it. My release is just an old, I don't know what kind of release it is, but that's all I've got. Someday I do hope to maybe kind of step up to a fancier bow, just to upgrade, but it'll probably be a few years out. So any questions, just Twitter me, follow me, send me your Bluetooth tweets and TikToks. I'll get back to you guys with my Instagram accounts, and we'll Snapchat it all up.
All right, so I know you guys wanted to see our bow and arrow tips for the year. I'm just gonna give you mine. I have my 6'2" weight rod here. I just tied a real big generic fly on here, a little parachute type fly, so you can see this in the video. But generally what I like to do, I like to get in, if it's a lot of like low trees like this, where I'm I can't cast over here. Can you see me in that, bud? When there's a lot of like back stuff and I just don't get a good cast, I generally like to take it, like my bow and arrow, I take it back, I send it out, and then the fish just hammer that every time. I caught a beautiful little brown the other day up on Elk Run Creek doing the bow and arrow. So those are my bow and arrow tips. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you later.